Yes, students. Now we continue with the first part, that is force, in which we are going to see uniform circular motion. Last year you had seen an example of this in standard 9 when I told you just think about the fan that is rotating at a constant speed. Once you set the regulator, the fan speed doesn't change, it just keeps rotating at the same speed. But the blades of the fan, the direction of motion keeps changing continuously. So continuous change in direction of motion is there for the blades of the fan. So if you consider any object which is moving in a circular path at a constant speed, that is what is known as uniform circular motion. Now, even though the speed is constant, you will see that the direction of motion is continuously changing. This object is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Let's consider this is a stone which is tied to a string, and you're just whirling the stone in this direction, in this manner, in a circular path. So the string is held by your two fingers, one end, and the other end there is a stone, and you're rotating it at a constant speed. The speed is constant, but at every point during its rotation, the direction is changing continuously. So if you consider point A, the displacement is in this direction. If you leave the string at this point, let's say the string gets cut at this point when the stone is at this position, the stone will fly in that direction. So that is the direction of the displacement. If the string got cut at this direction, the stone would have come this way. So you know when it is being whirled around, it can, if it is left at a point, it may come directly on you. If it is left at that point, it may go that direction. And if it is left in this point, it may come in this direction. So the direction of motion is changing, so the displacement at any point is also changing. At any point during its rotation, the displacement will be along the tangent to the circle at that particular point. Which means if you consider point A, at point A, if you draw a tangent in the direction of motion, why I am drawing it in the upward direction is because the stone is rotating in this direction. So that is why it is in the upward direction. Had the stone been rotating in this direction, that is in the clockwise direction, then the direction in which the stone would have flung away would have been in the downward direction from A. So at any point during its rotation, if we draw a tangent to the circular path, that will give you the direction of displacement. So at point B, the displacement is in this direction. At point C, the displacement is in this direction. At point C, the displacement is in that direction. That V stands for velocity, because change in displacement is what causes change in velocity. So you know at D it is perpendicular to the tangent drawn to the circle at that particular point, and rotation is like this, so the stone will fly in that direction. So direction is changing. So change in velocity, in standard 9 we had learned, change in velocity could be either due to change in speed or due to change in direction. In this case, there is no change in speed. What is changing is the direction. So here, the direction is continuously changing, so velocity is changing. So the object is moving at a constant speed, no change in speed, but it has variable velocity. Why is the velocity variable? The velocity is variable because the direction of motion keeps changing. So that's one thing that you have to know about uniform circular motion. Speed is constant, but velocity is continuously changing due to change in direction. Now if velocity changes, the body is having acceleration. Acceleration is not equal to 0. Because what is acceleration? It is change in velocity upon time. So in this case, velocity is changing, so the body has accelerated motion. The velocity is changing due to change in direction. Speed is constant, and because velocity is changing, the body has acceleration. Acceleration is not equal to 0. So here we have written, consider a stone tied to a string and being whirled around in a circular path at a constant speed by holding the other end of the string by the fingers. Even though the speed is constant, the direction of motion keeps changing. At any point during its rotation, the displacement will be along the tangent drawn to the circle, at that point as shown in the figure. Hence, the velocity is varying due to change in direction, even though the speed is constant. Hence, the body has acceleration because velocity is changing. That is, acceleration is not equal to 0. Now, definition of uniform circular motion. When a particle moves in a circular path with a constant speed, its motion is said to be uniform circular motion. So please note this down in your notebooks. We go on to the next part. Now let's see the difference between uniform linear motion, that means motion in a straight line, or uniform rectilinear motion, and uniform circular motion. Now in uniform linear motion, when the word uniform is there, not just linear motion, uniform, that means that the speed and velocity are both constant. Why? Because it is linear motion, the object is moving in a straight line path. There is no change in direction. And speed is also constant because the word uniform is there. So speed is constant and direction is also not changing. That means there is no change in velocity. So both speed and velocity are constant. If velocity is constant and speed is also constant, that means the acceleration of the body will be 0. That there is no change in velocity, so there is no acceleration. You know, acceleration is v minus u, or change in velocity upon time. So there is no direction change, no speed change. So acceleration is 0. Whereas in uniform circular motion, you just learned it, the speed is constant. The stone was rotating at a constant speed, but the direction keeps changing. So there is a change in velocity. So since the direction keeps changing, there is a change in velocity, and the change in velocity will result in acceleration. The body will have accelerated motion due to change in velocity. So understand the difference between uniform linear motion and uniform circular motion. In uniform circular motion, only the speed is constant, but the direction keeps changing, so there is change in velocity. See, remember, velocity change can be due to two things: due to change in direction or due to change in speed. So here there is change in direction, so velocity is changing, and if velocity is changing, the acceleration is there, it is not equal to 0. Whereas here both speed and velocity were same, because there is no change in speed, there is no change in direction. So acceleration is 0 in uniform linear motion. Now let's see the next part, the last part of the theory part of this topic, that is the difference between centripetal and centrifugal force. Now you are considering again the same rotation of the stone in a circular path. Now what will happen if this string breaks? Obviously you were told that the stone will fly away. So it is that string, something in the string, and you can feel that force on your hand, that is required for uniform circular motion. So there is a force that acts away from the body towards the center of the circular path. That force is called centripetal force, and that is the force that is necessary for any uniform circular motion. So for example, in this, when the stone is rotating at a uniform speed in a circular path, in that case, the centripetal force is provided by the tension in the string. There is a tension acting on the string which is providing the necessary centripetal force. The moment, let's say, that string breaks, that tension in the string is gone, the stone will no longer rotate in a circular path, it will just fly away. depending on the displacement, the position of the object and in which direction it is moving. So the force acting on a body moving in a circular path in a direction towards the center of the circular path is called the centripetal force. Centripetal force is the force necessary for uniform circular motion. During the rotation of the stone in a circular path, the tension in the string provides the necessary centripetal force for rotation. So if you are asked which is the force required for circular motion, you have to mention centripetal force. And in this case, the centripetal force has a name given. When the stone is rotating, that tension in the string is the centripetal force. So copy this down. We have a little part left in the next frame. And now another example of the same centripetal force, which you will see. Consider the moon or any other artificial satellite rotating around the earth, or any satellite rotating around any other planet in its circular orbit. The gravitational force of attraction exerted by the earth on the moon or on the satellite provides the necessary centripetal force which is required for circular motion. So when a satellite is rotating around the earth, there is a gravitational force of attraction. Last year you had learned in Newton's law, force of gravity. That force of attraction exerted by the earth on that planet provides the necessary centripetal force. So question can be asked, a satellite is rotating around the earth. What is the centripetal force? So you will have to say the gravitational force of attraction exerted by the earth on the moon or on that satellite provides the necessary centripetal force which is required for rotation of the satellite around the earth. Same way, it could be a planet that rotates around the sun. In this case, the gravitational force exerted by the sun on the planet provides the necessary centripetal force which is required for rotation. So that's the next example that is written. And the fourth and last example that can be mentioned here is, consider the electrons rotating around the nucleus. So the electrostatic force of attraction exerted by positively charged nucleus on the negatively charged electron provides the necessary centripetal force required for the electron to rotate in its circular orbit. So if you are asked what is the centripetal force or what is the force that causes rotation of electrons around the nucleus, it is the electrostatic force of attraction exerted by positively charged nucleus on negatively charged electron. And remember, the force that is necessary for circular motion is centripetal force. And different examples of centripetal force were tension in the string when the stone was rotating, the gravitational force exerted by earth on moon or satellite when a satellite or moon is rotating around the earth, the gravitational force exerted by sun on the planet when any planet is rotating around the sun, and the electrostatic force of attraction exerted by positively charged nucleus on negatively charged electron. Those are all examples of centripetal force in different cases. Now centrifugal force, it's an imaginary force and its direction is exactly opposite to the direction of the centripetal force. Centripetal force was away from the body towards the center of the circular path. So now this will be away from the center of the circular path towards the body, but it's an imaginary force, it's a fictitious force. So its magnitude is equal to the magnitude of the centripetal force and direction is opposite. So normally we think it's a reaction force, but no, it's an imaginary force. The centripetal force is an imaginary force and is not a reaction force on the centripetal force. So it's centrifugal is not a reaction to the centripetal force. It is not that. If you're asked, you will have to say it is not a reaction force. It is an imaginary force. And direction can be asked. Its direction is away from the center of the circular path towards the object. So it is an imaginary force assumed to be acting on the body in a direction away from the center of the circular path that is opposite to the centripetal force. Note, first point, magnitude of centrifugal force is equal to centripetal force. Second point, centrifugal force is an imaginary force and it is not a reaction force to the centripetal force. So with this we complete the theory of force. Now we are left with some sums which we will continue. As I told you, we are starting with the sums. We will not be doing all the sums now here on video. We will be doing few of the sums on video and the remaining we will do it on Zoom. The idea is that you go through these videos so that when we sit for the Zoom class and when we are doing these sums, you actually know how to go about and what is the concept. So now on page 5 you have question 1, which is a typical sum which can be asked in the board. It's a very simple sum. And this is the concept on which most of the sums in this part of the chapter is based and what is asked in the exam is based. So now here you are given that there is a meter long rod, a uniform rod 1 meter long. So 0 centimeter and 100 centimeters will be the ends of the rod. One end, the other end. 1 meter is 100 centimeter. Now consider any rod, any scale. If it is uniform, its weight will act at the center of gravity, that is at the center of the rod. So any rod will have a weight which we consider it to be W, and that weight acts at the center. That may not be given in the sum, but you are asked to find it. So the weight of a uniform rod acts at the center of the rod. In this case, the rod is 100 centimeter long, so its weight acts at 50 centimeter mark. The weight of the rod acts at the 50 centimeter mark. There is a fulcrum or a pivot at the 35 centimeter mark. It's given that the rod is balanced at the 35 centimeter mark. So that means the support is at the 35 centimeter mark. And you have another weight which is 60 GF, and that weight is placed at the 10 centimeter mark. So now this is the data given. The rod is balanced at 35 centimeter. There is a weight of 60 GF hanging at 10 centimeter. The rod is 1 meter long, 100 centimeter. So the weight of the rod will act at the center, that is 50 centimeter mark. So this is what is given in the data. So now from this they have asked you to find what is the weight W, and naturally you can't have only forces acting in one direction, that is down. Then the rod won't remain there, it will fall. There has to be a reaction force, and the reaction force, since there is only one support here, there will be only one reaction force acting in the upward direction at the support. Why upward direction? Because the forces, other weights are acting downward. This is the reaction force to those weights which are hanging there. So it will act in the opposite direction, that is upward. So now we have just two formulae that we use in this entire chapter. One is total anti-clockwise movement is equal to total clockwise movement. And the second is total upward force is equal to total downward force. So now first we will see the principle of moments, and we are taking all the moments about the pivot, that is this point which is the 35 centimeter mark. So what is moment of force? It is a force into the distance between the force and the fixed point. And there is two forces here. In fact, there are three if you consider the reaction force. But the 60 GF, now ignore all the other forces. If the 60 GF is acting downward at the 10 centimeter mark, and the pivot is at 35 centimeter mark. Like I had explained previously, this thing, what sort of moment is produced by the 60 GF, it will produce anti-clockwise movement. It is like I told you, if one sees one person sits here and let's say the earth is not there, then the person will go down like this. He will go down in this direction, and due to his weight he may swing a little further there. Of course he may not go around, but still this is anti-clockwise. So the 60 GF weight which is hung at the 10 centimeter mark will produce an anti-clockwise movement. Number one thing, to know whether it is clockwise or anti-clockwise. And obviously any weight on the other side, if a person sits on the other side, will all produce clockwise movements. So this W, that is the weight of the ruler, you may say that is not given. We to find karna. The weight of the ruler acts at the 50 centimeter mark, that is on the right hand side of the fulcrum. So that will produce a clockwise movement. Now what is moment of force? It is this force into the distance between the line of action of the force and the pivot. So what is this distance? This distance between 60 GF and the pivot is 35 minus 10, that is 25 centimeter. So this distance is 25 centimeter. On the other side, the distance between W and the fulcrum is this distance, which is 50 minus 35, that is 15 centimeter. So this distance on the other side is 15 centimeter, on this side it is 25 centimeter. So now total anti-clockwise moment, what about R? R is acting at this point itself, so it does not produce any moment. It is like me trying to open this door by pulling the hinges. Is it possible? Can I open the door by pulling the hinges? No, that is not possible. If you try, whatever force you apply, the door will not open. There has to be some distance between the place where you apply the force and the hinge. Only then the door will open. So here the force is acting on the pivot, so the distance is 0 between the force and the pivot. So that's why this force R will neither cause clockwise nor will it cause anti-clockwise movement. It does not produce any moment of force at all. So here total anti-clockwise moment will be 60 GF into this distance, that is 25 centimeter, and on the other side it is clockwise movement, that will be W into 15. 50 minus 35, that is 15 centimeter. So 15 comes on the denominator, 60 into 25 upon 15 will give you 100 GF, that's the weight of the ruler. So weight is not mass, weight is, either you write it as 100 GF, if mass of the ruler was asked, you would have written 100 gram. 100 gram is 100 GF. Now if you are converting it into kgf, you have to divide it by 1000. So it would have become 0.1 kgf. If they ask you in Newton, then that 0.1 has to be multiplied by 9.8, because it is, you are converting it into the SI system. 0.1 is in kgf, which is SI, and 9.8 meter per second squared is also SI. So that will become 0.98 Newton. So if nothing is given, you can write 9.8 or 10. You can write the weight as 0.98 Newton. In this sum, you can leave it as W is 100 GF, but the board rule says that you write your answers in SI, so at least make it 0.1 kgf, even if you don't convert it into Newton. Kgf is SI unit, so you can leave it as 0.1 kgf. Now in this sum, the second question asked is, what is the reaction force that acts on the support? Now, at the support you have a reaction R. That is the only force acting upward. The other two forces are acting in the downward direction. Now, this is 60 GF and this is 100 GF. Now, you can't take this as 60 GF and that as 0.1 kgf. It has to be in the same units. So 60 GF and 100 GF is the total downward forces, and the only upward force is the reaction acting at the support. So you are using total upward force is equal to total downward force. So your R is equal to 60 plus W, that is 60 plus 100, which is 160 GF. That is the reaction force. That is the total reaction force which acts at the support. Why? Because 60 and 100 are the two forces acting down. So equal and opposite force will act in the upward direction at the support. Here there is only one support. So at that particular point. Copy this down. This is a typical sum. This mark it important. Understand the logic so that when you do the sums in Zoom, you already know the logic and it is easy to understand and follow what is shared on the screen on Zoom. The second classwork sum. The question says that there is a rod which is 120 centimeter long. So now it is not a meter rod, it is more than a meter, it is 120 centimeter long. So first thing you should know without forgetting is that the center is 60 centimeter and the weight of the ruler, which is also given as 50 GF, will act through this center. Since it is 120 centimeter long, therefore the weight 50 GF will act through 60 centimeter mark. So once you have shown that, in this sum it is given that the rod has supports at both the ends. So there is a support at A and there is a support at B. So when there are two supports, there will be reaction forces acting at the two supports. Do not assume that they are equal reaction forces. They are different. It all depends on where the weights are hung. If there was no weight hung anywhere, if it was only the ruler which was there, the rod which was there and the weight as 50 GF at the center, then yes, both of them would have had an equal, and that is only balancing this 50, so 25 each. But not otherwise. It depends on where the other weights are also hung. So firstly you have the weight of the ruler acting at the center, that is at 120 divided by 260 centimeter mark, and the question also says that there is a second weight 15 GF, that is actual weight, which is hung at the 40 centimeter mark from the first end. First end is the 0 centimeter mark end. So these two reaction forces are acting in the upward direction. So there, as we told, there are just two equations in this, that is total anti-clockwise movement is equal to total clockwise movement, and second this formula that you have is sum of all the upward forces will be equal to sum of all the downward forces. So now here it is given sum of all the upward forces is equal to sum of all the downward forces. Sum of means total upward forces is total downward forces. So what is acting up? R1 plus R2. These are the two forces which are acting in the upward direction. And what is acting down? 15 GF plus 50 GF. So 15 plus 50, 65 GF is acting down, and R1 plus R2 is acting up. So this gives you one equation. R1 plus R2 is 65. The reaction forces will always act in the opposite direction to which the weights are acting. So since the weights are acting down, the reaction will be in the upward direction. Now consider moment of forces. When you consider moment of forces, there is no support in the center like in the previous sum. In the previous sum there was only one support. Now there are two supports. Now which point will you consider? So you have to consider either end A or end B and consider all the moments of all the forces about either point A or point B, which is one of the two supports. So here I am taking all the moments around this point A. So when I am considering point A, now R1 is acting at the point A itself. So the distance from the point A is 0. So R1 will not produce any moment. I told you it is like trying to open the door by pulling the hinge. The door will not open. whatever may be the force that is applied on it. So R1 doesn't produce any moment as it acts on the point A itself. 15 GF, if this is the support, all those things are not there. If only the support is there and that support is not there, this would have caused clockwise movement. This 50 GF weight of the rod, that also would have caused clockwise movement. And this reaction at the support is acting in the upward direction at point B, so that will produce anti-clockwise movement. So these two forces are causing clockwise movement. That is the only force producing anti-clockwise movement. So our second formula would be total anti-clockwise movement is equal to total clockwise movement. From that we write total anti-clockwise movement is R2, and we are taking the distance of the point where R2 acts, that is point B, from this point A. We are considering all the movements about point A. So R2 into 120. 120 minus 0 because we are considering the 0 as the pivot. So R2 into 120 is equal to 15 into the distance is 40 centimeter from point A. So 15 into 40 plus weight of the roller, that is 50 into this distance, that is 60. So it is 50 into 60 minus 0, that gives you 3000. So 3000 plus 600, 3600 upon 120 will be R2. So R2 is 30 GF. R2 is 30 GF. And now you substitute R2 is 30 in equation 1. So you will get R1 is 35 GF. This is how you have to do sum number 2. And it doesn't get any more tougher or anything than this. This is the maximum that is asked in this sort of questions. So copy this down. We go on to one more sum. Now I'm doing the 7th classwork sum. This is the 7th classwork sum. This would be the last sum that I am doing on video. The others we will do on Zoom. So here you are given that there is a uniform 100 centimeter or uniform meter rod. First thing is weight of the rod will act at the center. That weight has to be taken W. It acts at the 50 centimeter mark. And the rod is balanced at the 20 centimeter mark. That this is given. Now you have another weight, 100 GF weight, and you are supposed to hang it somewhere such that the rod is balanced. Where would you put it? Would you put it at this end? What would happen? If you put it here, then all the weights are on one side of the balance. So that rod will fall down on that side, it will not be in equilibrium. So you can't hang it at the 100 centimeter mark at that end. So obviously you have to put the weight at this end, at the 0 centimeter mark. So that 100 GF weight has to be put at this 0 centimeter mark here. Only then there will be one weight on this side and one weight on the other side. And then there is a possibility that the weights can balance. So now, what sort of moment is produced by W? W produces clockwise movement. And what sort of moment will be produced by this 100 GF which we hung here? This will produce anti-clockwise movement. So you have to hang the weight in such a question. You have to write the answer that the 100 GF has to be hung at the 0 centimeter mark so that the total anti-clockwise movement balances the total clockwise movement. So you have to think and decide where to hang. You couldn't hang this out there because then both of them would have produced the same movement, that is clockwise movement, and the rod would have collapsed. That side would have come down, this side would have gone up. So that's how you understand where to put the 100 GF mass. This is very important. You have to first understand that and then show the 100 GF at the 0 centimeter mark. After that, the sum is very simple. So you have to write this reason that the 100 GF has to be suspended at the 0 centimeter mark so that it produces anti-clockwise movement to balance the clockwise movement produced by the weight W, that is the weight of the rod. And then we have to do the working as per the formula. By principle of moments, the total anti-clockwise movement is equal to the total clockwise movement. So 100 into the distance from the fulcrum or the support, 100 into 20, 100 GF into 20 centimeter is equal to W into this distance, that is 30. 50 minus 20, that is 30. 2000 upon 30 is W. So W is 66.67 GF. That will be the weight of the meter scale. Weight of the meter scale is 66.67 GF. So with that, I have done the different types of sums that are asked in this question in this chapter. Now the remaining sums which are there in classwork, we will be doing it directly in the Zoom session. So write this all down and go through this first before you attend the Zoom class. Bye.